Alright, let's get to the point. I'm only going to rank the important bosses. No reused or underwhelming enemy bosses, only the big remembrance guys. I also wanted to add another thing I'll be doing in this ranking. If you haven't already watched my base game ranking for the bosses in this game, you should probably go watch that just for this new feature. Not only will I rank the DLC bosses from worst to best, but I'll also rank the DLC bosses in comparison to the base game bosses as well. Let's say I rank a DLC boss better than my number 3 spot for the base game ranking, which is Godfrey, but the DLC boss was not quite as good as the number 2 boss in my base game ranking, which was Mohg. I'll then just simply place that DLC boss in between them like this, to show how they would place in the base game. Also, just a quick little reminder, I won't be jacked up on Erdtree fragments, and I'll try my best to keep my upgrade level at a reasonable amount. Oh, and one last thing, just like my previous rankings, I will only be using a basic knight build with just a sword and shield. No rivers of blood, no summons, no broken one-shot perfume builds, just plain old melee fighting. Well, that's all I wanted to say. Let's start ranking some bosses now. Natir is just such a disappointing boss to me. She's got cool lore, she's got a fantastic and horrific arena, an interesting boss design, and some terrifying music. But of course, with all those positive features comes a trade-off. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this boss was ass. The moveset doesn't even start off that bad though. She begins firing weirdly timed but rather fun to dodge projectile attacks, but that's the best she's gonna get gameplay wise. When she enters second phase, she performs an extremely poorly telegraphed AoE blast that you could never dodge on your first try, and then it just spirals downhill from there. She legit starts spawning ads in her fight, which I personally really dislike. You gotta go out of your way to kill some of the worst enemies in the game, which are these little hand guys, while fighting a subpar boss on top of that. Another frustrating attack she has is that Event Horizon axial laser beam looking thing that she pulls out. My first thought when I saw this attack was, oh wait, okay, this fight might be going somewhere, this attack looks sick. But nope, this attack is just poorly designed. The first laser that comes after you is either extremely difficult to perfectly dodge, or just straight up impossible to dodge without special tech. The second laser though you can avoid by just walking past it. When you look up no-hit fights of this boss, you either see the dude just killing Natir fast enough so she doesn't pull off the shitty attack in time, or use some crazy shit like Vow of the Indomitable, Bloodhound Step, and Miriam's Vanishing, or something like that to get a frame-perfect dodge of this laser. I mean, when people are going to those lengths to dodge an attack right, you know they did something wrong with this boss design. I mean, at least the spectacle looks nice though. Some of the moves she has are just fun to even look at. And when you defeat her, she doesn't disintegrate like all the other bosses. She just scarily disappears into a void of silence which perfectly fits her unsettling design. I'd probably place her right in between the Regal Ancestor Spirit and Renala. All these bosses have something in common. The spectacle is very good, but the fight itself is on the verge of being complete ass. Let me get this straight. Commander Gaius is not a bad or mediocre boss. He's fairly underrated and I actually like him, as well as all the other subsequent bosses on this list. Pretty much all the Remembrance DLC bosses are very good, and I've been thoroughly impressed with them. Well, you know, except for Natir over there, who I just demolished. Gaius, the right-hand man of Mesmer, just comes out of the boss arena looking like Gyobu from Sekiro. It's actually crazy how similar they are. They both come out of the left side of a large field type arena, and the only thing missing is the screaming from Gyobu. I believe Gaius' AI is always programmed to start with that charge attack when you come through the fog wall. And man, this charge attack is something else. It's so goddamn inconsistent and honestly bipolar. Sometimes it just works and you dodge it perfectly, and then other times it's just like... Some people are even using Torrent's iframes to consistently dodge this charge attack, which is pretty funny. The charge attack is basically the only major gripe I have with this boss, but Gaius' moves and special moves are consistent, fun to learn, and fun to dodge. He's got a 5-hit combo that may seem very annoying to roll through perfectly, but if you just slow down and learn the combo, you can easily dodge it with consistency and satisfaction. Similar to Radahn, Gaius also studied gravity magic, making him utilize some neat looking gravity attacks that gives us a nice spectacle. Something that is upsettingly holding this boss down though is its lack of an original soundtrack. Gaius just reuses a lame mini-boss theme as his own. It seems like he was just rushed and they just used a random song for his theme. Other than that, Gaius is a great underrated boss that I would place between Godric and Godskin Duo. I feel like this boss isn't talked about that much either. The Shadow Tree avatar has such a unique design, being a literal giant shadow sunflower that uses its head and vine arms to smash you. It's got such a simple but engaging moveset that gives me dopamine every time I dodge through the combos. Especially that one where he does that 360 arm swing attack twice. I don't know why, but that's just so fun to dodge. While I was fighting the avatar, I was constantly in fear because of his sheer lack of health. You know a boss has a trick up their sleeve when they are this weak, but yeah, of course it has a second phase. Right off rip, the avatar starts going light speed and it gave me some Dark Souls 3 flashbacks with Vort. It's amazing. The music of this fight is also extremely fitting and memorable. The first phase has you battling out with the glorified houseplant while this mean violin plays in the background. But in the second phase, the Shadow Tree starts fighting back with more force and the music plays with more force as well. It starts throwing these impenetrable thorns at you that take a little bit to get used to the timing, but they feel great to maneuver around. Once you take down its second phase, something still doesn't feel right though. And we all knew it, there's a third phase. FromSoft bosses rarely have a third phase, and the Shadow Tree avatar takes its trophy of rare third phase bosses with it. You'd think that shit would hit the fan and chaos would ensue in the third phase for a grand finale, but you end up getting Dark Souls flashbacks again as it mirrors the Sif and Old Demon King fight, where you feel remorse for the bosses. The Shadow Tree is clinging on to its fragile life and testing your endurance as well as its own. 3 rounds of just back-to-back ruthless fighting, no cutscenes, no dialogue, just fighting. And by phase 3's music, you can really tell that this was supposed to be a mercy killing. The emotional weight of this track is just really impressive. Again, this boss is never really talked about, but I really liked it. I'd place it somewhere in between Elmer and Margit. The Putrescent Knight is another great and underrated boss that I enjoyed on my playthrough. But firstly, doesn't this guy's design seem familiar? Bro genuinely thinks he's Orphan of Cause. No, but seriously, this boss is pretty good. Once again, having flashbacks from Dark Souls 3, your character jumps down this giant chasm into the abyss, just like with Midir. And similarly to Commander Gaius, he just comes galloping out of a corner of the map, but thankfully he doesn't give you the Commander Gaius charging backshot treatment. The Putrescent Knight, I'll just call him PK from now on, has some extremely awkward and strangely timed attacks that he uses on you, but trust me, once I learned the specific timings of his slams and slashes, it just felt so great to dodge and weave through. His combos all feel so fair and simple, as well as being precise and challenging at the same time. PK's combo where he does the repeated guillotine slam while his horse charges at you feels so goddamn majestical and hyped to roll through. It's got this crazy rhythm to it I just can't explain, man. When PK goes into his second phase, a big gloop of death just rises up and it creates this wave of ghost flame that incentivizes the player to jump over them and utilize the underrated jumping dodge mechanic Elden Ring has. The second phase has a great spectacle and great mechanics too. This is another perfectly balanced boss in the DLC, and I would probably put it somewhere in between Margit and Malekith. I'm actually starting to hate how all these bosses are so good. I can't rank them separately enough because they are all so close to each other ranking wise. But yeah, quick warning, all remaining bosses are very, very good. So just know if I rank one boss over the other, their differences in rankings are like extremely tiny. That's how good they are. Anyways, Romina serves as the second to last boss you should fight through the DLC. First of all, goddamn, this boss design is absolutely incredible. This is the first time I've ever seen a hot pink colored boss in a FromSoft game, let alone any game I can think of. And the design is like Quelaag and that one Scorpion Lady from Dark Souls 2 on crack. These half Scorpion Lady designs mixed with Elden Ring's animation fluidity is a recipe for success. The sound design is also incredibly creepy in the best way possible as Romina's centipedes scuttle across the arena. Romina's moveset is also what I call balanced to perfection. She has flashy moves and flashy combos that feel so rewarding when studied, and never feel like a cheap shot. She has bug combos that swipe around you and can be jumped over if you are diligent, and rot swipes that have so much style and rhythm to them. Oh, and that one stinger attack where she jumps in the air and does that little flash before dive bombing into you is just unexplainable on how fun it is to dodge. The attacks she has are so unique and are half the reason why I love this boss. Her theme is just so peak too. And then the second phase pops out with her just levitating and snapping her fingers to the detonation of the raw butterflies. God damn, that's satisfying. And fans with good ears might notice that in her second phase, you can hear the remnants of Melania's theme because of their connection with Scarlet Rot, which is just a great detail they put in there. And in her second phase, she obtains some new flashy moves that use more Scarlet Rot in her arsenal, like this new combo where she does 4 spinning slashes. This one is really fun to dodge, but it completely tanks the frame rate on my PC, I don't know why. But yeah, Romina is a great boss. We are only 4 bosses in this ranking, and I'm already calling bosses peak. That's how good these DLC bosses are. I'd place Romina somewhere in between Morgott and Radabeast. Where do I even start, man? This boss is just such a mixed bag. On one hand, it's the most cinematic, grand finale masterpiece of a boss, and other times, it's just the most inconceivable, diabolical, pathetic excuse for a final battle. Anyways, turns out the final boss of the DLC is Promised Consul Radahn, who is Radahn, the dude we killed to access the DLC, who is basically stuffed into Mohg's body with his own soul. And we actually get to see Miquella here in this fight, a pretty hyped up character in the lore, which is pretty cool. But diving deeper into this lore, it's revealed that Miquella actually charmed Mohg. He made him do all this vile shit to Miquella, but he was actually under a spell the entire time, all in favor of Miquella's plan to become a god and create a new world. So this reveals that Mohg was innocent the entire time. I can't believe it. Mohg actually beat the allegations. All this time we thought Mohg was just Dr. Disrespect, but now we know it was all Miquella's doing. Anyways, onto the fight. The fight begins with this absolutely insane set piece at the top of Enir Ilum with nothing else but these beautiful clouds above us. But yeah, it's Radahn. A part of why I wasn't as excited for this fight as much as other fights was because it was Radahn. I mean, sure, it's Prime Radahn, but he's essentially just the same boss we fought before in Caitlyn, just a smaller, more aggressive, and precise version of himself. Imagine if we fought like Marika, Godwyn, or any other cool major character. Like, Radahn, I've already seen this dude like a million times. I know it might seem like I'm starting to hate this boss, but no, I actually really like it. There's just so many things to criticize it upon. Radahn's first phase is legit almost perfect. He starts the fight off with this cool ass gravity slam and then just goes full on skill check on you. It's a classic melee battle that tests your patience, diligence, and reflexes. Learning his moveset is like even better than Godfrey's, I'd say. It's so satisfying to learn the punish windows and different ways to dodge his attacks. But the reason why I said it was almost perfect is because of one move. I'm sure you know the move if you've fought him before, but it's his 2-hit slash and cross swipe combo. This shit just plagues the fight in the first phase and second phase. It's like 99.9999% impossible to actually dodge this attack normally. In fact, I actually think it's frame perfect, so you'll basically never dodge it. The only ways to dodge it consistently are like 2 super obscure and weird items you get in the DLC. One is this obsolete talisman that you randomly get, and it gives you iframes when using a backstep, allowing you to dodge this attack. And the other way is to use the deflecting heart tier, which allows you to block this attack with your weapon by obtaining it from one of those random furnace golem things in the middle of nowhere. I think those are basically the only ways to dodge this horrible attack.
This double swipe attack feels not only inconsistent and unreliable to avoid, but also like unsatisfying when you do as a result. In fact, not only is the attack itself terrible to deal with, but it throws the rest of the fight out of whack. It doesn't make the fight skillfully precise, it just makes it boring and extremely repetitive. Like, I don't know why they did this.
But other than that, the first phase is really great. And despite other popular contradicting opinions, I actually really enjoyed his second phase as well. Radahn adds Miquella into the fight, Twin Princess style, and he gains so many new engaging attacks. But he mostly adds beams of light after every combo swing, making you adapt to his second phase and learn new windows of opportunity. He's got a goddamn fucking giant holy nuke that he always does at the start by just T-posing and levitating in the air, which is pretty cool. And he also pulls out Shadow Clone Radahn Jutsu by using his light clones to repeatedly destroy you, which was really fun to dodge through. And how could I forget that grab attack? This is so unique. Miquella grabs you and yaps some shit into your ear, and it might not seem to do anything yet, but if you get grabbed again, you just insta-die. In fact, you don't die, you actually get your heart stolen. You literally give up on becoming Elden Lord and just become Miquella's servant. That's so insanely cool, man. His new second phase combos are so fun to play with and are extremely cinematic as well. Well, except for that triple slash, because he does even more damage to you from Miquella's light beams. Another complaint I had with this fight was the visual clarity. I can't really learn and process the attacks that they throw at me if I can't fucking see them. Like, Miquella's hair is blocking half of the screen while a billion sources of light just flashbang you. Like, get out of the way, man. But he's got insane rhythm to this fight, maybe even the best rhythm in the game, and fighting him to the rhythm of his theme, blasting in the background, is one of the best FromSoft moments ever in my opinion. Miquella's soundtrack might be the best in the game or in the entire FromSoft game lineup. This shit is so majestical and beautiful, man. It captures that feeling of battling a holy lord just flawlessly. And I'd even go as far and say that it's a musical masterpiece. But yeah, that's probably the last boss of Elden Ring. Definitely not as good as Gale, but an exceptional boss nonetheless. Some very annoying features hold them back, but I'd probably place them in between Morgott and Radabeast. Starting off the top 5 boss of this list, we've got Rellana. Let me just start off by saying that this is exactly what I wanted from Rennala, her sister. I'm sure you're aware of how I ranked Rennala so low because I just simply didn't like her fight. It was spammy and boring to play against. Rellana, however, is the complete opposite of Rennala, being an up-close and personal melee fight rather than a cowardly magic spamming summoning fight. I literally remember saying in my base game ranking that I would love to see a magic boss done like this. It's crazy. Could you imagine if we got a sorceress with crazy magic swords and stabs, or being able to dodge moonlight attacks while some sick-ass music plays in the background? Moving on, Rellana is just a pure skill check type of boss, which I always appreciate. She is a brick wall towards players' access to the rest of the DLC, and just like with Pontiff and Morgott, she is basically saying, if you can't beat me, you can't beat the rest of this DLC. Rellana doesn't have any fancy cutscenes or dialogue as well, as she just comes charging at you with her dual swords while you shit your pants. And her combos have this great synergy of being punishing and rewarding at the same time. Her long and drawn out combo strings reward patient and focused players for noticing when the combo ends and when there is an active opportunity to punish. And her combos also punish overly aggressive players that try to get a greedy heal or a greedy punish. This allows her fight to just have an unmatched magical flow that makes the battle so special. And going back to how Rellana's fight pales in comparison to Rennala's, her magic attacks just nail the right amount of coolness and frequency. I love how she also incorporates magic attacks into her melee combo swipes, not just pure magic attacks like Rennala spams. Rellana has her 2-hit carrying greatsword move, her glint blade phalanx combo, her transient moonlight slashes, and best of all, her twin moon attack. This move is so cool, it's on another level, man. It's such a high stakes attack too, because you basically die if you get caught by the first blast, and you get that Commander Gaius backshot treatment. It's like FromSoft learned from all their past mistakes and past experiences with other magic bosses in the DLC, and Rellana is what came out from that. Oh, and I also forgot to mention her soundtrack, which is flawless for a duel-like battle. Now every time I play the DLC, I know I'm just gonna get a free dopamine hit when I fight this boss. This is without a doubt the best armored knight type boss in the game. I'd probably place Rellana in between Radabeast and Radahn. And here we have Messmer. I honestly thought he was going to be the final boss of the DLC, but no, he's a mid-game DLC boss that I think is optional if I'm correct. Without a doubt though, I'm going to give the award for the most iconic boss to Messmer. This guy was plastered all over the promotional material and trailers for this game, and you could even get a Messmer statue and treat yourself to 18 inches of Messmer the Impaler. Yeah, that's a real description from the trailer. Anyways, Mesmer is an iconic boss of Shadowkeep, one of my favorite locations from the DLC, and when you finally journey onto the top of this castle, you get rewarded with what might be the best intro cutscene to a boss in Elden Ring. His voice actor just has the most professional and most collected voice ever that just multiplies the wow factor for this boss by 10.
Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death. In the embrace of Mesmer's flame.
And I'm also going to give the award for the most balanced boss to this guy. Every single one of his attacks are so honest, but they manage to avoid being boring at the same time, which is a hard thing to do. All of Mesmer's swipes and thrusts with his big poking stick have a distinct rhythm and great flow to them, which is always nice. The first phase is great and all, but the second phase is where FromSoft really starts to cook. Mesmer gouges out his eye that Marika gave him, sealing the curse inside him, subsequently revealing the raw power of the abyssal serpent within him. How did these weirdos at FromSoft even come up with this stuff, man? Every idea that they've had in this DLC is so iconic. Mesmer's second phase heavily focuses on wide, slashing 20-foot snake attacks that he conjures from his abyssal body. I mean, how could you not love this? He gains so many new attack strings with his snakes, and that one combo where he summons 3 serpents is so fun to dodge. He goes all out with this shit, and I feel like this phase is what Rykard could have been if he wasn't a gimmick fight. The second phase is so unbelievably good, and when that music kicks in, it's just unmatchable, man. I love how you can even hear little hints of Radagon's theme, well, you know, since that's his father. Again, this dude was plastered throughout the Shadow of the Erdtree marketing campaign, and I just knew he was going to be a great boss on first sight, and he totally is. I would probably place him in between Radahn and Godfrey. Definitely one of the more iconic and recognizable bosses in Elden Ring. Alright, top 3, let's do this. These 3 bosses are so unbelievably good that we are close to toppling the #1 boss in the base game ranking, which was Malenia. The dancing line was a perfect way to start out the DLC and warns the player that the bosses in the DLC are even crazier and tougher than the base game bosses, as if they weren't crazy enough. The first crazy thing that this boss has is its intro cutscene. Some old-ass grandma lady reanimates the corpse of this divine lion, and then the beast just stares at you with these piercing, ice-cold eyes that give me chills when I watch it. It genuinely feels like you're gonna get your shit rocked when the cutscene ends. Another great thing I like about this boss is its visual design. If you pause and take a look at this boss up close, you can actually see that it isn't a strange-looking lion, but it's rather 2 random guys underneath a costume just scuttling under this lion. It's actually based off real festival lions, which adds a good amount of authenticity to this fight as well. The lion's first phase starts off with something short and sweet while you take a little bit to learn its basic attacks and behaviors. But this first phase is just a little taste for what this boss has next. When you get a quarter of the dancing lion's health down, it switches to this insanely unique elemental phase change that keeps the fight fully engaging throughout the battle. You see, the dancing lion has 3 elements: lightning, wind, and frost, and these 3 elements are masterfully crafted. The lightning phase is for sure the most dangerous phase, hurling bolts of thunder while creating lightning aftershocks after most moves. And man, these lightning projectiles get my blood pumping when I dodge them, they are quick. The frost phase is the second most dangerous, unlocking more AoE moves that force you to adapt to frostbite and jump dodging. And the wind phase focuses on tornadoes and storm arts that force you to keep a distance. All of the lion's moves just add up flawlessly to what FromSoft has created here. Every time the lion changes its element, the music abruptly changes as well, which is just... words can't even explain how much I love this, so I'll just show you. And yeah, that soundtrack you just heard in the background just adds so much to it. It's a damn good boss theme when you can barely focus on the fight while you're fighting the boss because you were just too distracted from the music. The Dancing Lions OST is probably in my top 3 for Elden Ring soundtracks. This shit is just so guttural and it fits the boss perfectly. I mean, the boss is literally dancing to the different tones of music. I remember the first time I was fighting the lion, my heart was literally pounding when I was just dancing around this boss. The Dancing Lion is one of those bosses that I never want to kill and just want to endlessly fight it over and over again. You know which ones I'm talking about. Everything about this boss I just adore. The concept of the 3 elements is executed perfectly and gives this boss its rightful ranking of a top spot. I'd place this boss between Godfrey and Moog. Alright, we are so close to the best boss in the entire game. Before we properly talk about Midra though, I have to say this first. Only FromSoft would make one of the top bosses in the game only accessible on a hidden path next to some concealed ladder under a fake waterfall. Only FromSoft would have that path lead to an illusory wall, down a sewage pathway, and into a sprawling catacomb dungeon. And only FromSoft would have that lead into a maze-like abyssal forest that leads to an easily missed mansion that finally hides one of the best bosses that they've ever made in all of Soulsborne. My condolences for all the players who missed this pathway. They never got to experience this boss and the build-up to this boss. So much hype and build-up was a contributing factor for Midra, and when I somehow found this on my first playthrough, I was pumped. Midra was a failed Lord of Frenzied Flame, and with his pain being caused by this big thorn in his body, he exclaims that he's endured enough, finally succumbing to the madness. I think Midra's cutscene is the best in the game, being crowned with the best dialogue, best visuals, and best anticipation. The dude opens up by yapping the depths of your foolishness, and then you get that
I have endured more than I know.
and then Midra yanks the big-ass thorn impaling his body in an insanely cool and gory fashion that reveals his missing head replaced with the literal frenzied flame. His design is top tier, man. Midra begins the battle similar to Mesmer, where it's this calm but threatening first phase that gets you word for the second phase. The music is building up in the first phase, and you are anticipating the next move of this freaky dude. And yeah, once you do get him to half HP, you get to see why this boss is on the number 2 spot on this list. He opens up with this crazy AoE that turns his body into a fiery ball of madness, and it feels like the sun just fell down on you. The arena changes as well to accompany this madness, and he gains more madness moves that are cinematic and balanced as well. I have to mention Midra's music too. Moog, step down because Midra just took your trophy of the best theme in the game. You thought Moog's theme was evil? Moog's theme is over here looking like fucking Sid from Toy Story, while Midra's theme stomps on it looking like Thanos. Midra literally dances to his own theme, as I believe this theme is on a 3/4 time signature, making it feel like a waltz sword fight, but I have no clue about music theory, so I might be wrong. Anyways, the way Midra flows and twirls in the air with his song is a feeling I could never get from any other video game ever, and with the burning mansion in the background, it truly feels like you are fighting the final boss of Elden Ring, not just the Forgotten Lord. Fighting this boss makes you feel like the world would end if you lost. I can't describe it. Midra's theme is the closest thing they've ever gotten to Bloodborne levels of music in Elden Ring, I'll just say that. All of Midra's attacks are insanely fun to roll through, and that grab attack is something else. Also, how the fuck does that not one-shot? The Tarnished is 100% dead after that. I don't care what you say. But my character just rises up like nothing fucking happened. Anyways, Midra is one of FromSoft's best creations. That's why I'm going to place it over Melania, and it is currently the number 1 boss on this ranking right now. Goodbye Midra, and say hello to Bale. I'm sorry, I love you Midra, but you're not even close to being the best when compared with Bale. This might be surprising to see Bale at number 1 on this list because, I mean, I hate dragon boss fights in Souls games. I hated pretty much all of Elden Ring's dragons, and only liked Midir from Dark Souls 3. But to see a dragon boss be here at the best boss in Elden Ring should give you a hint on how good this boss truly is. Your first encounter with Bale in the Jagged Peak starts with Egon, who I also think is the best NPC in the DLC, but we'll talk about him later. Throughout this DLC, you've probably noticed that giant-ass spiky mountain while traveling in the Shadowlands, and guess what? You actually get to scale it and face Bale at the peak. Just the build up to this fight alone would still give it a high ranking even if this boss was ass. But riding up the jagged peak with Torrent is the best build-up that this boss could ever ask for, and at the peak of the, well, jagged peak, Bale finally shows up to face you. Let's just take a moment to appreciate Bale's design here. He's obviously been injured from a battle, as we see bones sticking out of his wings as well as a severed leg. And his best detail is the severed heads of Placidusax biting onto his neck. This guy is the reason Placidusax only has 2 heads when we fight him, as Bale bit the other heads off, which is just the best detail and is so metal. When the fight begins, I immediately noticed how mobile and unique Bale was in comparison to other dragon fights in Elden Ring. Bale is surprisingly quick for a 10-ton dragon and is melee savvy unlike other dragons, using his literal bone wing knife, tail swipes, and bites to attack you instead of slowly flying away like other lame dragons. But yeah, Bale's first phase feels great, and it feels like you're in a Monster Hunter game trying to capture this beast of a dragon. The combo strings he has are fair and are so pleasing to look at, keeping you on your feet the entire fight. But man, this second phase is why this boss is the best in the entire game, you'll see. First off, the spectacle. Bale does this blood-curdling screech and sprouts these electric phantom wings that are like the coolest fucking thing ever. Bale then flies up while throwing these tracking projectiles at you in a 360 and then slams back down to you. And when you dodge this move, it makes you feel like a god, that's all I can say. For Bale's second phase, he gets the Consort Radon treatment where secondary flashes of light appear after the initial strike, making you adapt and find new ways to optimally dodge his combos, but it actually works pretty well this time. The second phase is literally just Bale's first phase increased by tenfold. But now it's time to talk about his best second phase attack though. Yeah, you know the one where he flies up and does the Midir laser beam but just 10 times better. This right here is the best feeling in the entire FromSoft lineup of games to dodge. God damn, just looking at Bale in the air while he lasers his electric fire down on you is the best in-game boss moment in Elden Ring for sure. And with that music, it just makes it incompatible to any other boss. Last but not least, let's finally talk about Egon. Egon makes this fight from being top 3 to top 1 and beyond. This NPC is the best in Elden Ring. This dude gets his legs broken, doesn't give a damn, and crawls up a mountain anyways, breaks his finger off and gives it to you, helps you defeat a fire lightning death dragon, talks so much shit during the boss fight, and then dies after you beat him. Tell me that isn't just the most badass thing you've ever seen. I dare you to say that right now. If you ever just want to feel like a badass, fight Bale with Egon. Every time you do it, it's just bound to make you feel like the most important person on earth. But yeah, that's Bale. And as of now, he's going to be placed better than Midra. He just does everything right. The music, the spectacle, the fight, and the notoriety. And I'm just gonna say it, I genuinely think Bale is better than Midir. I've been a long-time Dark Souls 3 fan, and it's my favorite Souls game, but Bale is just such a good boss. I don't even know what to say.
Hey, what's good, y'all? It's Seb, back with a cameo. I just want to say thank you for making it to the end of the video. And thank you, Critter Farts, shout out for making this good content, and y'all still sleeping on him. So, subscribe, like the video. If you disagree with this list, leave your comments down below, and have a good evening, night, morning. Love y'all.